No snazzy intro needed. I am Lamont at large. Today, I am in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm going to take you to the house where Joel Guy Jr. killed and dismembered his parents. We're going to talk about the murder, and I'm also going to take you to their final resting place down in Louisiana. Come with me. Let's talk a little bit about who this psychopath Joel Guy Jr. was. First of all, Joel Guy Jr. was 28 years old at the time of the murders. He was the son of Joel Guy Sr., 61, and his mother, Lisa Guy, 55. Joel Guy Jr. had three sisters from another previous marriage that Joel Guy Sr. had, Candace, Michelle, and Angela. So this guy, Joel Guy Jr., graduated high school out here and then went to the Louisiana School of Science and Math, graduated there in 2006, did a semester at George Washington University, and at the time of these murders was enrolled at LSU, Louisiana State University. He lived in Baton Rouge. He was wanting to go to school to be a plastic surgeon. Never had a job in his little pathetic life. Went to school for basically his whole life. After he turned 18, graduated high school, he was in school for 9 straight years, never worked. His parents were footing the bill for his rent, his car note or insurance, his food, his cell phone, everything his parents pay for, everything. You might know people like this yourself in your neighborhood. Actually, one of these people might be your son or daughter. I call these people professional students. Professional students, people that don't want to face the facts that they're going to have to join the real world, actually get real jobs and pay their own bills. Our college system in the United States has turned into almost a holding pen, a cattle pen, if you will, for these students getting these doctorates, bachelor's, master's degrees. Are they ever really going to use them? Do you really need a master's in dance theory? I don't know. That's another rant video. I digress. Let's continue with the story. Joel Guy Jr., professional student, 28 years of age. Even then, by the time he's 40, he's still going to be going to school. Thanksgiving 2016. The family gets together, has some turkey, maybe some beer, cigarettes, good old times at the Guy house. So that weekend, November 26, 2016, Joel Guy implements a plan to kill his parents. Now, why is he going to kill his parents? They're paying all his bills. He's only able to go to school because of them. Well, they told their son, they say, listen, you know, I'm working, your mom's working. The only reason why your mom is working is because she's paying all your bills. Joel Guy Sr. was a pipeline engineer. Lisa worked human resources at Jacobs Engineering. She worked in payroll. They're tired of this kid. 9 years you've been going to school and you have done nothing. It's time to get off mommy's teat. And that's what they told him. From now on, you're on your own. You're going to have to actually get, I don't know, a job. You know, one of those things that you wake up every day and you go to work. Sometimes you like it, sometimes you hate it, but you got to do what you got to do, son. You got to grow up. You must fly from the nest. And I'm sure Joel Guy Jr. is like, yeah, you know, that's kind of what I got to do. I got to stop being an incel. Kind of looks like one when you look at his picture. My mother said if you can't say anything nice about somebody, don't say nothing at all. But sometimes I never did listen to my mother. This guy just looks like a weirdo, looks like a freak. He looks like he is the president of the Incel Club members of Louisiana. Sorry. I'll stop being mean right now. So, he says, you know what? I can't get a job. I can't join the real world. I'm just going to have to kill them. They have a $500,000 life insurance policy. I don't know why he felt that he would be the sole beneficiary of said life insurance policy. But he says, hey, I got a great idea. How about I kill them? And then I'll blame my dad for them dying. I'll frame him. And then I'll be the sole beneficiary of said life insurance policy. And then I'll pay up ahead my rent for 5 years. And yeah, everything will be great. I'll be a plastic surgeon. Or I'll change my mind and go to school for something else and continue to go to school until I'm 60 and $800,000 in debt. How about we do that? That sounds like a good plan, right? Right. Okay, very good. Let's continue. So Saturday, November 26th, 2016, the plan comes into fruition. Joel Guy Jr. goes to his dad's house. His dad's upstairs working out. He pulls out a knife and starts stabbing him, attacking him. There's a violent struggle. Blinds are ripped off the windows. Senior is fighting for his life. Unfortunately, he loses that battle. Huffing and puffing, Joel Guy Jr., look at him. He looks like rather out of shape, if I do say so myself. He's huffing and puffing. It's a lot. You're exerting a lot of energy killing somebody with a knife and stabbing them 41 times. Now all he has to do is wait for his mother to come home. Lisa Guy Jr. Oh, Mom, can't wait for you to come home. He waits upstairs. Lisa Guy goes to Walmart, picks up a couple things, ice cream, bacon, sausage, just stuff for the house. Maybe some cigarettes, maybe some beer, who knows. These two individuals had planned their retirement down with their budget to even wear how many cigarettes and beer, how much beer they were allowed to buy. And Joe Guy Jr.'s bills were not a part of their retirement package. So after Joe Guy Jr. stabs his father to death 42 times, because 38 times would simply not be enough, he waits upstairs, and as his mom, she comes home, she puts the groceries down by the entrance to the door. She goes upstairs, and she sees her son coming at her with a knife. Comes at her with a knife, stabs her to death 35 times. Mission complete. He has just killed his mother and his father. He's won the battle, but the war is not quite finished yet. He has a lot of work to do because you see, he has a crime scene to attempt to cover up. He's looking at the two corpses of his mother and father, and he gets busy. He proceeds to start dismembering them. Goes to his dad. He starts with him. Cuts off his legs. Cuts off his arms. Cuts off his hands. Next, he starts in on his mother. Cuts off her arms. Cuts off her legs. But like I said earlier, he's not really in shape. This guy's huffing and puffing. He's running out of energy. He's not sure if he can finish the job. He's just winded. It's a lot of work to cut the body parts of your mother and father off. It's a lot of work. I can understand. He's getting tired. And his hands have wounds on them. He has a really nasty gash on his left thumb. And he's thinking to himself, damn, I might actually lose this thumb. It's a very, very deep gash that needs urgent medical attention. His mother's head is not coming off the way he wanted it to, like his dad. It's not coming off cleanly. It's because he's very, very tired. He takes a break. He comes back, starts sawing off some more of her head. Huffing and puffing. Finally, he just has it completely off. He has it almost completely off, but not quite. So he just starts yanking, and finally it pops off. That took a lot of work. Now, he gets those blue bins that he bought from Walmart. Walmart sells everything. And he fills them up with muriatic acid. and starts dissolving the body parts. Because that was a part of his plan. He had a really detailed plan. Actually, he wrote it down in his notebook. Let's read a little bit from his notebook, what he wrote down in terms of the plans on how he was going to carry out the murders and what he was going to do after they were completed. He wrote in his notebook, get carving knives, get killing knives, quiet multiple to make small pieces, get sledgehammer, crush bones, bring blender and food grinder, grind meat, get bleach, denature proteins, get plastic bin for denaturation process. He's going to dissolve their bodies. That is why he's using the acid. Does not matter where they're killed. Just get rid of bloody spots to prevent evidence of time of death. Very, very important to him, the time of death. He wants to make sure that the medical examiner conducting the autopsy does not or cannot at least determine the exact cause of death. That's why after he killed his parents, he turned on the heat in the house to make sure that the decomposition process, he was trying to speed that up. Get rid of bodies inside house. There, and my DNA is already there. Flush chunks down toilet, not garbage disposal. There's more to the list, but those were the main talking points in his notebook. Other than him buying the bins from Walmart, buying the lye, buying the muriatic acid, so forth and so on. You get the gist of what this guy was trying to do. The second part of his diabolical plan is complete. His parents' dismembered body parts are soaking in the blue bins that he purchased at Walmart and the muriatic acid that he bought from Ace Hardware. Yes, I finally did it, but he is spent. This guy is tired. I didn't know killing both of my parents and cutting up their bodies could take out so much of my energy. Him being a young man, but out of shape, as you can see clearly by his pictures, he doesn't know what to do. He is just winded. He's tired. He's spent. He has that nasty, nasty cut on his left thumb. Am I going to lose my left thumb? He has cuts all over his hands and his arms. He goes to the thermostat of his house, turns the heat all the way up. Why? Because, as I mentioned earlier, he wants to try to speed up the decomposition of the bodies. That way, when the medical examiner sees what happened, they don't know the exact cause, not the cause, excuse me, the exact time of death. That guy's really, really smart, that Joel guy Jr. He's one smart lad, so he thinks. In actuality, this guy is a complete and utter moron, can never finish anything. Professional student, book smart, brain dumb. This guy can never finish what he starts. That's why his parents are getting tired of paying for him to go to school. We don't want to pay for your lifestyle of just wanting to go to school and not enter the real world. So after he leaves his parents' dismembered limbs in the bins, for some odd reason, he decides, I guess now I'll go to Louisiana. Wait a minute, Joel. You were supposed to clean up the house to cover up all the DNA and cover up all the evidence. He just leaves. He just leaves. Okay. He left. Could never again finish what he started. We're going to fast forward to November 28th, 2016, Monday morning. Lisa Guy's not at work. She's always on time. She never misses a day at work. If she has, she's called in sick or maybe a family emergency or something of that nature. One of the coworkers gets, a bad feeling. This is how punctual Lisa Guy is about going to work. So they call the police to give them the address. They want them to go do a welfare check. So 2 police officers, they go to the house. They notice everything is locked. Now, the house at the time was for sale because they were planning on moving and retiring. Now, normally when a house is for sale, like a realtor will have keys to the house, and they'll usually have that little doorknob padlock, and that's where they keep the keys, but they didn't see anything like that there. One of the detectives looks into the car and notices a garage door opener. So the car door is open. He opens the car, hits the garage door opener. The garage door opens. They go into the house. Knock, 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 knock. Police department, blah, blah, blah. You know, whatever police do. And so they're calling out their names. Is anybody home? Joel, are you in here? Lisa. And when they open the door from the garage into the house, the living room, they notice that there is groceries on the floor. There's ice cream that is completely melted all over the floor. They see a pack of bacon, food that should be automatically put away. Ice cream in the freezer, bacon into the refrigerator, perishables. That's the first sign that something is wrong. They also notice two things when they're going through the house. Number one, it's very, very, very hot in there. The stove is on. There's a pot on the stove. Very, very hot. And there's also a very weird smell, like a chemical smell or something like that. You can't really put their finger on what that smell is. It just smells weird. And then they start hearing a dog barking, ruff, 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 ruff. Police department. They go upstairs. Very cautious. I'm sure them being police officers for so many years, they got a really bad feeling about what's to take place. They go upstairs, they look down the hallway, and they immediately see Joel Guy Sr.'s dismembered hands. Don't see that too often, right? They check the rooms, they see blood everywhere. They look into the workout room upstairs. The Bowflex is tipped over. There's blood everywhere. The blinds were ripped off of the window seal. Obviously, we got a murder here. One of the other police officers opens up the bathroom and, to his utter and complete horror, sees the blue bins and legs, arms, torso of Joel Guy Jr.'s parents, Joel Guy Sr. and Lisa Guy. They go downstairs, they call for backup, they call for homicide detectives to show up. They're not done with that part of the House of Horrors. One of the detectives looks into the pot because the stove was on and sees Lisa Guy's head looking right up at him. And the house to your right there in the middle of your screen, that is the house where that grisly murder took place. Lamont at large, always at the scene of the crime. So homicide detectives come over there to take care of the crime scene, and boy, they had plenty of evidence. And they also found that notebook with the checklist of how to kill his parents, what to buy, where to buy it, what to do afterwards. That notebook they found upstairs, written in his very own handwriting. I actually cannot believe that somebody lives at that house. It's just such a horrific thing that happened, and somebody still wants to buy the house or live in the house, even though it has such a nasty history to it. Who would have known? And this is a very nice neighborhood too. If you can look around, it's very tranquil, very peaceful. Very nice neighborhood, if I do say so myself. But a nice neighborhood with a very notorious home where a very notorious murder occurred. So immediately, homicide detectives, they're immediately looking for Joel Guy Jr. They contact the Baton Rouge Police Department or the sheriff's patrolling that area. And they say, yeah, hey, we were looking for a guy that we suspect of his parents' murder, Joel Guy Jr. And they conduct surveillance on him for about a couple days. And then they finally arrested him. This is the apartment complex where Joel Guy Jr. used to live. He lives in a much different one now. And his plan, of course, after he killed his parents, which he definitely did do, sloppily so, leaving the notebook with the instructions on what to do in his own writing at the scene of the crime. He came back to Baton Rouge because he was worried about that thumb, that horrible cut on his thumb. I can only guess what this guy was thinking to himself about what he had just done. Maybe he didn't care. Maybe he think it was all just going to disappear. Who knows? So the authorities back in Tennessee contacted the authorities down here in Baton Rouge about Joel Guy Jr. and they put him under surveillance, of course, for a few days. And they tracked him down to this apartment complex. And this is where he got arrested. That is his building, Building A. He lived in apartment 202, which was right there, right there. Yeah, that's his apartment. He was gonna pay up his rent for X amount of months or years and just go to school. Yeah, that's where he lived. Yeah, so his plan was to just kill his parents, keep going to school, pay his rent. Everything was just gonna disappear. Nobody was gonna suspect that this guy did such a horrible thing. And then, you know, he ended up graduating school. And then guess what he was gonna do after he graduated school? Well, he was gonna keep on going to school for something else, because this guy just couldn't really complete anything in his life. He couldn't finish anything. And very, very interesting. And this was where he was arrested on November 29th of 2016. You can imagine how many police were out here. They probably had the tactical gear on. They probably had the rifles pointed at him. They were probably waiting for him to make one minute inch of a false move so they could just blow him away. I'm pretty sure some of them were thinking that. But he didn't, and he was arrested. And took him back to Tennessee to stand trial for his parents' murder. And that is what happened. He was eventually found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder. And he actually wrote the judge a letter and he said, I want the death penalty, pretty much. And I don't know why. Because, you know, we have the death penalty. We reserve it for the most heinous of heinous crimes. And let me tell you, this fits the parameters of a death penalty case. However, the prosecuting attorney did not feel the need to want to go for the death penalty. So they just simply gave him 2 life terms in prison, when that's where he is today. So he can, you know, he can have all the fan mail that people send to him, and I'm sure he has a pretty good life in prison, right? I mean, that's what he wanted. You think you're gonna get away with this atrocious murder, and maybe he wanted to go to prison. Maybe he just didn't want to take care of himself. Maybe he didn't want to face the music that he's gonna have to pay his own rent. He's gonna have to pay his own bills. He's gonna have to live life. I don't know. Maybe he was institutionalized before he was actually institutionalized. Anyways, so right now we're going to start heading east of here to Luling. We're going to go to the St. Charles Cemetery, where reportedly the guys are interred there. Not much information about where they're buried. someone did make a find a grave about where they're at. So we're going to start heading there right now. And here we are at the St. Charles Mausoleum Cemetery here in Luling, Louisiana. We're about 20 minutes west of New Orleans. And if you look online about Joe Guy's and Lisa Guy's obituary, it doesn't say anything about where they're buried or what have you. Now, if you go on Find a Grave, it says that the guys are buried here at St. Charles Mausoleum Cemetery. However, after me walking around, I'll say for about a good 30 minutes, and this is not a very big place at all, it's very, very small. They are definitely not buried here, at least with a marked grave. But somebody related to the case is buried here, and I'll show you their grave really quickly when you walk to the end of this pathway right here. And in front of you, you will see the crypt with the names of Alvin David Madeir and Joyce Boudreaux Madeir. Joyce and Alvin had a kid named Lisa Madeir, and Lisa Madeir married a man named Joe Guy, and they had a kid named Joe Guy Jr. who brutally, horrifically, and monstrously murdered both of his parents. And these are Lisa's parents right here. So I don't know if their ashes were, you know, interred in this crypt with them. I have no idea. When you do something like that to a body, when you destroy it, and I mean, he basically liquefied his parents' remains, it's often probably best if you just go ahead and have a cremation done for them. Find a grave could be quite a very valuable tool to me, but oftentimes can be wrong. And the problem, I believe, with Find a Grave is that you're not allowed to replicate a grave of a particular person. So I believe the person that makes the original Find a Grave could have your posting deleted if you make another one. So I'm going to send that person on Find a Grave a message and tell them that they are wrong, that they are not buried here, because there is no pictures of their grave and there is no proof online that they are in fact buried here. I mean, they did live in Tennessee, and I believe all of their family, or their kids at least, are still living in that general area. However, a very, very nice, well-kept place of burial right here. I enjoyed my trip here nonetheless. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to show their graves, but you know, listen, at the end of the day, when a horrible crime like that is committed, and you know, the bodies are just utterly destroyed, I mean, you're oftentimes just gonna have a you know, the remains cremated and so forth and so on. Anyways, live but not live, but still alive by the grace of God. I'm Lamont at Large. Thank you for watching my video. I appreciate it as always. Don't forget to share my videos on social media where applicable. It really helps me out a lot, more so than you know. I will catch up with you on the next vlog, guys. Have a good day.